Hello again everyone, welcome back to ptet.chemistry channel. So this is part 4 of the series of lecture tutorials that we have been focusing on chemical formulas. So far we've talked about a lot about covalent compounds and molecules back in the first 2 lecture tutorials, and the last lecture tutorials, and especially this one, will just be manipulating what we have known about the formula of common cations and the formula of common anions. Anions being negatively charged ions, cation being positively charged ions. You have come across tables like these, of which you are not given in exams, so you got to know certain formulas, especially the polyatomic ones, and not getting the formulas or the charges or the names incorrect at all, because these are factual stuff. Unfortunately, you got to know them, you got to master them by doing a lot of examples until you could get them right, and you could never ever get confused ever again. Alright, so these remaining lecture tutorials, what I'll do is I'll just go through these few examples, and then what I'll do later on is I'll go through a couple of these things from work 1, and importantly, I will not go through all of work 1 because I'll leave that for another lecture tutorials that is specifically on going through work 1. So I'll just bring up certain examples so that I can show you the kind of strategies, the kind of techniques, coupled with the knowledge that you need in order to tackle these kind of questions. Alright, so let's get started. Okay, so what we have here is aluminium oxide, actually without the S there. So if I just copy paste these things onto a new page, which I don't have, let's just use the space given here. Aluminium Al3 plus, oxide is O2 minus, the valency 3 and 2 based on the charges, cross multiply, you swap the value, you do not swap the ion. Okay, so 2 on the right go to the left, 3 on the left goes to the right. What does this mean? This means there are 2 of these things stay on the left, there are 2 of these. So I write Al3 plus, I write O2 minus, O2 minus, O2 minus. We can then see there are 2 aluminium and there are 3 oxygen. There are 1 and 2 aluminium, there are 3 oxygen. So the formula is going to be Al2O3. On to the next one, magnesium oxide, so Mg2 plus, because magnesium is a group 2 metal lose electrons to complete the outer shell, they lose 2 outer shell electrons and they get 2 plus. O2 minus is a group 6 element, so 6 outer shell electrons gain 2 electrons in order to complete the outer shell. So the valency is the charges, the value on the charge. The value on the charge for oxide is 2. This is called magnesium ion. This is called oxide ion. Together, metal ion, non-metal ion form ionic compound. Ionic compound between metal ion and negatively charged non-metal ion. So what I do then is I cross multiply the value. The value 2 and 2 is a result of these coming here, these going there. But these are not the simplest ratio. You must get to the simplest ratio. So what you do is 2 divided by 2 on both sides, because you could simplify this further as per primary school mathematics. So now 1:1 is the simplest. It means 1 Mg2 plus, 1 O2 minus. Then 1 Mg and 1 oxygen, so that is MgO, which is the formula of this ionic compound. When someone tells you MgO, you should be thinking magnesium, group 2, Mg2 plus. Oxygen with a metal, non-metal with non-metal, and non-metal with metal, so you get an ionic bond. So you think about negatively charged ion, because non-metal gain electrons to give you negatively charged ion. On to the next one. This is slightly more difficult. This is called ammonium, and the other one is called sulfate. So very tricky there. So let's see, ammonium is NH4 plus. It's a polyatomic, many atoms, so make sure you can get those correct. SO4 2 minus, this is sulfate. SO4 2 minus, getting the atoms and getting the charges are very important. They are the first step to you not getting confused and not getting tricked by the question. The valency follows the charges. The valency follow the charges. The charge is plus 1. That's why they don't write 1 there. They just write plus. So the valency is 1. The valency on SO4 2 minus is 2 because you follow the charge, which is 2 minus. What you do then is you cross multiply, or they say crisscross. So 1 on the left goes to the right, you get 1. 2 on the right goes to the left, you get 2. What does this mean? This means there are 2 of this thing. So it's best if I write out 1 and then I write down 2. So that means I have 2 of this thing, 1 of it and 2 of it as per this number here. And there's 1 of SO4 2 minus. So what does this tell me? NH4, there are 2 of it. SO4, there are 1 of it. So if there's only 1 of it, I don't need a bracket. So I can remove that bracket, I can remove that one. So this is the formula for ammonium sulfate. The ammonium ion is NH4 plus, the sulfate ion is SO4 2 minus. I need 2 of the plus 1 and plus 1 give you plus 2, and 1 of the minus 2 give me minus 2. The total charge plus 1 plus bracket minus 2 will give you 0 charge. Compounds is uncharged even when it's ionic compound, or covalent compound. Compound has no charge, ions have charge. Okay, NH4 twice SO4. This is pronounced as NH4 twice, TWICE, and then SO4. So NH4 twice SO4. So basically from those table of ions, you can come up with thousands and thousands of combinations because you know the most basic stuff, the most simpler stuff, you know it, therefore you can do more complicated stuff. Last but not least, calcium chloride. So calcium is a group 2 metal, so they will form plus 2 cation to complete the outer shell. Chloride, group 7 element, so when they form ion, they will have a fully filled outer shell by having a minus 1 charge. That means gain 1 electron. Valency follows the charges on the ion, so 2 there and 1 there. So what happens is crisscross, cross multiply, bring down the 1 on the right to the left, bring down the 2 on the left to the right. So what this means is 1 calcium 2 plus ion. What this 2 means is these 2 represent how many of these do you have? You have Cl minus and you have Cl minus. Overall what you have is you have 1 calcium 2 plus and you have 2 Cl minus. You can simplify this to give you Ca, Cl2. This means 1 of these and 2 of these. So CaCl2 is the correct formula for calcium chloride. Okay. Next up, onto the information that you can obtain from chemical formula. So very importantly, these are less likely like the direct question they can ask you, but you got to know what the formula actually represents when you read a chemical formula. So what are the elements present? So all these are chemical symbols of the elements from the periodic table, and then the number of atoms of each type of element. So you read from left to right, left to right. For example, this is sulfuric acid. There's actually a new spelling, so make sure you change the spelling. SULFURIC. This is sulfuric acid. The formula is H2SO4. You can think about it in terms of H plus, SO4 2 minus. So you can try and get the formula yourself. The valency of H plus is 1 following the charge. The valency of SO4 2 minus is 2 following the charge. Crisscross, move the 2 to the left, the 1 to the right. This means you have H plus, and you have SO4 2 minus. So you get 2 H plus, meaning H2, SO4. So this means the 2 there, read from left to right. There are 2 hydrogen atoms, 1 sulfur atom because there's no number there, 4 oxygen atoms. Okay, so H2SO4 is a formula that you got to remember. Sulfuric acid, one of the most common acid of all, H2SO4. Magnesium hydroxide, one of the hardest one to get, is because of Mg2 plus and OH minus. You have 2 and you have 1 because this follows the charge there. So this is the valency. The valency of Mg2 plus is 2 following the charge of Mg2 plus. When you do the cross multiply, you are trying to balance out the charges. That's what you're doing. So 1 on the right goes to the left. So you get 1 Mg2 plus. You get 2 of what? 2 of OH minus. So you get OH minus, OH minus. Altogether, you have 2 oxygen and 2 hydrogen and 2 of the minus 1. So you get minus 1 and minus 1. Overall, you get minus 2 charge because of 2 hydroxide ion. and you get a +2 charge. Charges cancel, compound has no charge. Whether you're ionic compound or covalent compound, compound has no charge whatsoever. So what happened then is you would round them up and then you will write them as Mg2 plus, one of them, OH minus in a bracket with a 2 at the bottom. This number is what you call subscript. Subscript mean on the bottom right hand side. Superscript mean on the right hand side top bit. So this is what we call subscript, or we can write Mg2 plus once, bracket OH minus twice. You can then simplify this to Mg bracket OH twice. This means 2 oxygen, 2 hydrogen, because it's in the bracket. A lot of students, after they do this, even the pure science student, they'll make this mistake. They will make this mistake. This is a mistake. So this is wrong, because you have got 1 oxygen and 2 hydrogen. Whereas here you can see you should have 2 hydroxide, meaning 2 oxygen, 2 hydrogen. This is entirely wrong. Even pure science student can make this mistake. So you need to keep an eye out for this use of bracket and to know how to read from left to right correctly. Last but not least, something which is very complicated, looks complicated and scary, but it doesn't need to be. Aluminium sulfate. Sulfate is SO4 minus, as you could see, and relates to sulfuric acid, which also contain SO4 minus, but then the partner is H plus, whereas here your partner is a metal cation, which comes from metal after having lost electrons, because metals lose electrons and they get positively charged ion. Here aluminium lost 3 electrons because aluminium go from 2 at 3 to become 2 8 after you lose 3 electrons. Anyway, this is about getting to the formulas. So the valency is the combining power of the ion. So it depends on the charges of the ions. Plus 3 there. So the number is the combining power. The number on the charge is the valency. So it's 3 following the charge. The charge of sulfate, SO4 minus. Keep on pronouncing it and keep on writing it until you're very good with all the polyatomic ions. There are around 5 or 6 of them. Make sure you master all of them, their name, their formula, their writing, their pronunciation. SO4 minus. So the valency is 2. Cross multiply. So 2 goes to the left hand side and 3 goes to the right hand side. What does the 2 actually means? It means there are 2 of these things. So I'll write down Al3 plus, Al3 plus, and I have SO4 minus, SO4 minus, and I have SO4 minus. So altogether I have 3 of this sulfate. So what I could do is I could write Al3 plus, I have 2 of it, and then SO4 minus, I have 3 of it. So it could be simplified as Al2. So now without writing the charges, because the charges are what you're supposed to know in your head as a chemistry student. So now I'm just simplifying Al2 with the 2, how many? And then the SO4 has to be put in a bracket, just like hydroxide in the previous example. And there are 3 of this sulfate. There are 3 of them and 2 of this Al. That's why the formula is 2 aluminium atoms. There are 3 of this sulfate. I can write down sulfate, 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 so I can count 1, 2, and 3 sulfur, so 3 sulfur. And there are 4 and 4 and 4, so 4 plus 4 plus 4 is 12, or you can do 4 times 3 because there are how many multiple of the exact same thing. 4 plus 4 plus 4, or 4 times 3 give you 12 atoms of oxygen. These are things which you don't really need to write down all the time, but if you are very beginner, if you are still at the stage where you can't see the use of bracket, then you need to write them down as you go along, as you will see in one of the follow-up work associated with this particular topic. This is read as Al2 bracket SO4 3 times. Again, you read this as Al2 bracket SO4 3 times. This is aluminium sulfate. It consists of Al3 plus, SO4 minus. It consists of 2 of that Al3 plus and 3 of that SO4 minus. There is 2 aluminium atoms. There is 1 sulfur inside the bracket, but altogether there are 3 of the sulfate. So you get 3 times 1, which is 3 sulfur. And altogether you have 4 times 3, which is 12 oxygen atoms. Okay, so I think I'll leave it there for these lecture tutorials, and you can find out more about work or similar exercises, assignments related to what we have covered in terms of formulas, names, and application of these crisscross multiplying these kind of numbers and getting to the ions, getting to the getting to the formula of those ionic compounds. So you can find that out more in the associated tutorial on the work that has been assigned to you. Okay, so make sure you try those work first before you actually look at the solution, because it matters that you're not always depending on other people, but you do it yourself first, and you're just checking whether you're on the right track by watching my tutorials afterwards. Okay, thank you for watching. Make sure you click the button on the bottom right to subscribe to the channel, and please share the channel widely with all your friends, chat group, juniors, seniors, relative, teachers, other people you think the channel might be useful for. You know, year 9, year 10, year 11, combined science chemistry students. I've got chemistry, pure chemistry tutorials as well, but those are under the 5070 playlist and not the 5129, which this one is for the combined science chemistry students. Okay, follow me at ptet.chemistry, ptet.chemistry on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter to get connected, or to send in messages, or if you spot any mistakes in my work. So do let me know if there's anything you are unfamiliar about, or you think the explanation is not very clear. Please let me know as well on how I can improve that after all. Okay, so thank you very much for watching. See you in the next tutorial video.